All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new edition of Holding Court here on the First Day Hoops Report YouTube channel. I am, of course, First Day Hoops Report founding editor and Holding Court host Chris Stevens. Hopefully, you all are doing well out there as we are winding down the summer. It's really dreary outside on the Sunday morning as I'm recording this. I actually planned to go for a walk this morning, but then I got up and said, you know what? I really don't feel like leaving the house. So I'm not going to leave the house. And I'm going to get this edition of Holding Court out of the way. Wanted to talk about the return of the Crozier League and maybe some other points of interest that come to me as they come to my head, because I really didn't have a plan for this episode. I just, wanted to be consistent because consistency is key. That reminds me, there's a duo of rap women called Flyana Boss. It's a play on Diana Ross's name. And if your kids are on TikTok, you've already heard them say, hello, Christ, I'm about to sin again. So you've already probably heard, if you're an adult and your kids are on TikTok, you've probably heard that sound at least once or twice during the week over the course of the whole summer. And I remember someone asked, how many times are they going to do the same thing on TikTok? And then people were like, well, you have to be consistent with your marketing. And that's reminded me that, okay, First Day Hoops Report, even though we're in the throes of summer, we don't have high school basketball, we don't have college basketball at the moment. It's still important to just, have something for you guys to be able to latch on to and, keep in contact with me with. So that's why I decided, I was just going to do Holding Court throughout the whole summer, even though I really haven't had a chance to get out to many things. I did get out to the first week of Duffy's Hope. I'll probably go back out to that soon. There's a couple of other leagues I want to get out to. There's the Some Her League that's going on down at Middletown High School. There are a couple schools that'll be in it. Hodson's in it, St. George's. I think St. George's in it. I could be wrong. I think it's Hodson. I know Middletown is hosting. Del Castle, MOT Charter. So I'll go check out those girls down there at some point. But the Crozier League that's coming back, that's going to be a fun league to watch, because the Crozier League back in the day was sort of like Stormers Classic from a weekend perspective, at least on a Sunday, because that's usually when it was. And this will be the reinvention of that. And there are several teams from a high school standpoint that will be of note in there. You've got Howard in it. You got Middletown, Sally's, Christiana, Dickinson, Del Castle, Concord. And then, of course, we got a couple of teams come from St. Mark's, Brandywine, Tower Hill. And then in Sussex Central, of course, we got some teams coming across the border from not Delmarva County, Delaware County, and Chester County, Octorara, Coatesville, Oxford, Chester, Upper Darby. So there's going to be some good basketball played. There'll be two spots, two locations. There, of course, is going to be Powell Wilmington and Hicks Anderson Center. So I wish I had, a team. It's just me at this point. Again, I'm hopeful that, once I start getting advertisers and sponsors rolling in, I can bring in people who can help contribute. Because, again, as I said last week, I don't feel comfortable asking people to work for free, because we're in a world now where everything costs money. And unfortunately, the cost of everything has gone up. Like, I went to the store the other day, just to get some eggs, and I was surprised the eggs was like $8-9 a carton now. And I go to Food Line. I'm not a Trader Joe's. I'm not a Wegmans. I'm not a Aldi. I'm not a Whole Foods kind of guy. So going to Food Line, where it's still cheaper than most places, but still, things cost money these days. That's basically the point I'm trying to make. And as talented as a lot of these people are around here, with the cameras, some folks write too, but I don't feel comfortable asking anybody to work for free. I mean, I work for free for myself because I love to do it. And if I didn't have a job, or 2 or 3 actually, then I would probably be spinning my wheels doing this. But as long as, I have a job that helps me, pay the bills, keep food in my mouth, keep a roof over my head, then I can do First Day Hoops Report on my own dime. But I can't ask anybody else to come and say, hey, all I can do is pay you an exposure, because that's not good. And too many people do that. That's one thing I want to make abundantly clear about, self-starters and entrepreneurship and creative, being a creative and all of this, is that too many people who position themselves as content creators or business people, they don't know how to run a business. And you have to, compensate your employees fairly, not just, any old compensation, but compensate your employees fairly. That's important. And that's why I do this by myself, because I don't want people, feeling like, oh, wow, I'm just busting my butt, for absolutely nothing. And it's like, no, I'm not going to ask anybody to do that. So once again, I am looking for advertisers. I am looking for people who want to advertise on our website or sponsor things such as this podcast, or if we do a game of the week, you can sponsor a game of the week. You can sponsor our Players of the Week award that we gave out about 9 or 10 weeks during the season. It's all up to you. Once again, if you want to get in contact with me with that information will be in the description below, as all of our social media information. Are we going to join Thread? I don't know yet. That kind of sort of, was an interesting thing, because Zuckerberg has definitely, thrown a wrench in Elon Musk's plan to absolutely destroy social media with the whole Thread app. I've heard good things about it, but I've also heard that it can also be a info grab nightmare, as Facebook has always been. So maybe First Day Hoops Report will get on Thread at some point, but for the meantime, we're still on Twitter, we're still on Instagram, we're still on Facebook. We'll see how it goes. We may join TikTok, even though we really don't have a use for TikTok. I mean, TikTok would just be for posting highlights. We can post highlights on Instagram and YouTube. So, what can you do? But again, getting back to my point, I really would feel uncomfortable asking anybody to do anything for free, because it's just like, if you're good at what you do, you should be compensated for it. So that's my standing on that. And I've had people ask me, can I get on with First Day Hoops Report? And I'm just like, I can't afford you right now. So hopefully at some point I can. But in the meantime, it'll just be me. That's probably why I'm so, stressed about, not stressed, but just, trying to, make sure I, have my ducks in a row when I'm going to these leagues, because I got to have the days down. I got to know who's playing, the time and everything. Even though, the Crozier League flyer is very much cut and dry. This team will be playing this time on this court. This team will be playing that time on that court. Just follow the list. That's going to be a long day, actually, because the games at PAL started 12:15, I think, and the last one starts at like 5. So we're talking about 6, 7, 8 hour day, on a Sunday at that. But really doesn't matter all that much. If you love basketball and you want to see these kids play, you'll go out to either PAL Wilmington or Hicks Anderson and watch. And that's what I plan to do with camera in tow. Very much looking forward to it. So lastly, this was going to be a short episode because I really didn't have that much to talk about. There was apparently there's a DIAA meeting that's coming up on the docket. I think it's going to be a transfer waiver heavy hearing, and there's been a lot of talk on social media, mostly on Twitter and Facebook about, transfers and different things. We talk about the transfer stuff every week, it feels like. And I'll be glad when we can start getting down to the actual game of basketball, because it gets tiresome to talk about when we've already discussed that, you can't assume that every kid is transferring for the same purpose. And if they are, so what? I've already said that the reason these kids transfer schools so much is that not every school has the ability to give certain kids what they are seeking from an athletic standpoint. And yes, school and academics is always first in line. That should be the first responsibility that kids, families, parents, and so on should be taken care of. But at the same time, you already know that certain players are going to shine brighter or seek a spotlight greater than what they already have. Because the ultimate goal for a lot of these kids is to be seen by college recruits and scouts and maybe even professional scouts. But not every school has the ability to get these kids seen. So what happens? It's a rush on schools like Salesianum, Sanford, Tower Hill, St. Elizabeth's, Appoquinimink, Middletown, Dover, Cape Henlopen, the schools that are prepared. And that's not a knock on the schools that aren't, because as I've said in previous episodes, you have to, as a school district in the 21st century, especially a public school district, because you don't get the same resources as a charter school or a faith-based private or a vocational school district, for some strange reason, people have just decided to stop funding public education. And what can you do? That's why it's been a marvel that teams like the AI girls or, you know, the boy a Christiana boys team that'll Christina School District boys team that'll jump up and make the state tournament. Even Mount Pleasant having as much success as they've had on the boys side over the years. You know, going from not making the tournament for the entirety of the 2000s decade to becoming a signature program over the course of the last 10, 11, 12, 13 years. It's amazing that they've been able to do that because, well, the Brandywine School District is in much better shape than Christina, much better shape than Red Clay. Those are school districts, that are struggling. And that's why it's amazing that every once in a while, a team from Red Clay, a team from Christiana, I keep saying Christiana when I mean Christina and Christiana. Whose idea was it to form a school district named Christina and then have the high school named Christiana in it? For those of us who get tongue-tied very easily, like myself, it can be very difficult to differentiate, the Christina School District from Christiana High School. It's hard. It's hard, especially when you're trying to, make points about high school sports and you get on a roll and then all of a sudden you get kind of tongue-tied a little bit. But yes, if it's a team from the Christina School District, if a team from Red Clay, if a team from, there's only one high school in Colonial, and of course William Penn has been good forever. Even during Penn's what we would call down periods, they were still a threat. And they're definitely even more of a threat now because you got Gary Lumpkin and Taylor Davis over there coaching. So, but public school districts north of the canal are struggling. And that's why it's so hard for these kids, that's why it's so hard for them to retain athletes, because a lot of these athletes choice out before they even get to the schools. Like there are kids that probably would have gone to back in the day, let's just say, because Red Clay is a certain segment of Wilmington that's like north, like it's basically the west side of Wilmington for the most part. There's part of West Side that still cuts into Christina School District. Mostly East Side has been Christina for as long as I can remember, and same for South Bridge. South Bridge is Christina, and I think Colonial. No, Colonial. No, the only place Colonial still has a spot in the city is that one section that cuts between Riverside and Northeast Boulevard. It's the strangest thing. Like, why is the Colonial still getting kids from the Riverside area of Wilmington? I don't know. That's just something that is a mystery at this point. But that's why these kids choice out to like Howard and Delcastle, St. George's, and Hodson when they can, or they'll go to a if the situation is right, they'll go to Sal's, they'll go to St. Mark's, they'll go to St. Elizabeth's, or they'll go to a Wilmington charter or a Newark charter. It's difficult for the schools that used to be dominant to compete because the scope of education has changed so very much. And the transfer thing is just a symptom of that. I know people are saying, oh, you're probably, excusing the kids moving from Seaford to Middletown. No, I'm not. I'm not excusing them because it's not my place. My job mainly is to report on the game. The stuff that happens outside of that, yes, I can talk about it, and yes, I could report on it, but what difference does what First State Hoops Report would say make from as opposed to what a news journal would say, or a 302 Sports would say, or a Delaware State News would say, or a Cape Gazette would say, or a WDEL? We're all covering the same thing here. We all know what the score is, and if you're comfortable being upset about kids transferring, especially if it doesn't affect your bottom line, that's your business. But at the same time, and this is coming from somebody who came up in the late 80s and throughout the 90s. Like, again, my first exposure to high school basketball was when Glasgow, Christiana, Newark, Penn were dominating. And, every once in a while, a Sanford team would appear, a Tower Hill team would appear, a Howard team would appear, and, compete as well. And these were kids that all grew up together and all went to the same schools, and they seldom transferred. So I'm not saying that the old days weren't simpler or aren't missed, because they are. But there comes a time when it's like Slim Charles said on The Wire. What the good thing is about the old, the thing about the old days? They're the old days. We can't keep going backwards wishing for a time that just is not going to come back, because it's not financially feasible or academically feasible to do so. You can't just say, okay, and this is coming from somebody who's been a long proponent of recreating a Wilmington school district and making PS DuPont a high school again. I literally live right around the corner from PS. So it's like, why? Why not? Why not make PS a high school again? I mean, yes, you'd probably have to do a little bit of work, in terms of, making everything up to code from a high school standpoint. But you have the building, you have the shell, and you have a football field. Only thing is, though, it's one-sided. And those bleachers at PS are hard, because some of them are rock, some of them are wood. I jog over PS every morning. I don't pay much attention to the bleachers, but you probably have to do some work to make that a high school ready football field or whatever, what have you. I was trying to say what have you, but whatever came out. Same thing. But overall, yes, the transfer thing is an issue, but it's an issue that people could have stopped 10, 15 years ago and chose not to, because everybody jumped on the charter school bandwagon. It's not even a bandwagon anymore. It's a way of life. And you can't get mad when kids see that, okay, I'm not going to be seen at Christina or Concord or AI DuPont or Dickinson or McCain. I've got to go where, there's, a summer league contingent. There's people who can shoot games for me that I don't have to, bother my mom or my dad with, holding the camera up during the games or whatever, these types of things. So the commercialization of high school sports is not fun. It's not something that we should be excited about, but until something better comes along, or until we can get a decent public school system around here again, it is what it is. And that's why these kids transfer all the time, because there's a chance they can have a better opportunity to be seen at a different school than the school that they're at now. And if we are going to start penalizing kids if we're going to start penalizing kids for the mistakes adults have made, then we really are doing the kids a disservice. That's really the bottom line. You can't be upset that the kids are only doing what the adults have necessitated, or forced them to do, basically. Because if people around here, up at the Reading building actually cared about, and even down in Dover cared about public education in Wilmington, you wouldn't have kids, going left and right to different schools. And this isn't even just from an academic standpoint. I mean, from an athletic standpoint, it's from an academic standpoint as well. Like the parents, it would be negligent of them to not give their children the best opportunity, whether they are a STEM scholar or a football star or a artist, whether they dance or sing or write or draw or paint or whatever. You've got to give your kids, as a parent, your main job, not only is just to keep them alive and healthy and all that good stuff, is to prepare them for a life where they can sustain themselves. And that starts with education, obviously. And education in Delaware is a fractured thing because of charter schools, because of faith-based schools, and the lack of public education north of the canal. South of the canal is growing great guns. Appaquidamink is about to open up another high school. Smyrna has always been great. Capital School District has been solid. Polytech, going down to the beach, they have great schools. Why is Wilmington the one kind of left out of the lurch? Who knows? But that's why these kids transfer. And and that's the best way I can put it. There's a point in time when you have to say that things happen for a reason, and the reason is that the powers that be neglected public education from Wilmington to the bridge, whichever bridge you want to use. The old St. George's Bridge, which is going to be closed for the next year or so. Oh my God. I just remembered that the old St. George's Bridge is going to be closed until next fall. Not this fall, next fall. So, and this is coming from a person who literally hates Route 1. Like, I cannot stand Route 1. Like, if there was an easier way to get downstate, I would take it. And for me, that's 13. I just like the drive on 13 better. Route 1, too many people drive like it's Dover Downs. But yeah, the old St. George's Bridge is closed for the foreseeable future. So we're all going to be riding across the Roth on our journeys to Middletown and Dover and Cape and so on. That is not going to be a fun trip, but it is going to be one made out of necessity. Back to the point. Actually, that was the final point, was that if we're upset about kids transferring, then we have to look at why the kids are transferring. Do kids transfer for athletic gain? Yes, they do. Why is that a problem? You tell me. Because if we're going to put these schools up against the wall, and the kids see the writing on the wall, their parents see, then there has to be a point where, okay, maybe we need to rethink education here. Because we're just going to leave the largest city in the state dying on the vine in that respect. Then we can't be surprised when kids seek greener pastures for academic and athletic purposes. And even for social purposes. Because if you're going to a school where, the kids are just there to be there, then you're not going to really have like the greatest school experience. Then you go to a school where the kids are happy to be there. The teachers are happy to see them. The principal and the administration is making sure everybody's happy, everybody's taken care of. Then you're going to have these types of things happen when kids just leave these old schools in droves. So somebody has to make a decision on why these things are happening. And if there's a solution to fix it, it should be done. That will do it for this week's edition of Holding Court. Greatly appreciate y'all's time. As always, it was a short episode because I didn't have much to talk about. Once again, once the league start back up, I'll probably start, giving reports from there. Hopefully on the YouTube channel, I can start posting highlights again because I haven't posted a highlight since the boys state championship game, and that was back in the second week of March. We're about to enter the second or third week in July, and I just miss, posting highlight videos to the IG page and this YouTube channel. But once again, if you want to get in contact with us, all of that information will be in the description below. Our Facebook page, our Twitter handle, our IG handle, email address. Once again, we're looking for advertisers. We're looking for sponsors. If you have a business, a product that you want to advertise on First State Hoops Report, we get thousands of views per month. We get viewers on this YouTube channel. Let's work together. We can come up with some good stuff. So thanks for listening and watching, and I'll see you guys in the gyms this week. Y'all take care of yourselves and each other.